Hello, everybody. This is Michael, and I'm here to draw the this beautiful picture of Chico in the fall. I went for a walk this morning and noticed, wow, there's some wonderful colors out right now. Um, so I thought, what better way to enjoy this than to draw the fall colors and this cool view of Chico, either from a helicopter or a drone. Um, Yeah, it's beautiful. Cool angle, but also mainly just love the colors. So I've drawn a rectangle here on my iPad to sort of define my borders of the drawing. And how would I start something like this? If you see a picture like this that's um, quite complex, you might look at it like, you know, where do I start on something like this?
Wait.
Um, Again, it can be intimidating. But what I do is I'll start from the farthest distance away and kind of move myself closer and closer. In this case, it would be the top of from the top down. Um, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with kind of a sketch, and I'll start adding colors on top of it. So if I look way in the distance, there's kind of a haze going on, and it starts all the way at the top of my rectangle. So I'm going to draw a line. That's the horizon line. And then the main street going through is the Esplanade, which ends at that horizon line pretty much in the middle. Right kind of below the horizon line is where I kind of lose track of where the road is. And then I'm going to draw that line straight down towards the bottom right of my rectangle here. So it sort of goes out to the right a little bit, and then it curves more straight towards the bottom. Something like that. So that's generally the shape of the esplanade there. Again, this is just a sketch, so I don't really have to worry about the lines being beautiful or nothing. I'm just sort of putting everything where I want it to be. Um, so that when I add the colors, I'm not worried about that. So that looks pretty similar. Oops, to the path that road's taking through those beautiful red and yellow trees, and then down to the right, something like that. Okay. Now, what are the other things I want to notice? That street that goes, I know it to be the Bidwell Mansion. With the little roundabout thing there. I'm going to go ahead and draw in where that is now. And sort of, if I follow just the concrete, something like that. Now I'm noticing that right here, this intersection is a little bit too far towards the middle of my page. So I know maybe this curved road, this road at the Esplanade should be a little bit further to the right there. So I'm going to adjust this. This sketching time is more of a time to fix your mistakes, to sort of, yeah, keep yourself on track because there's nothing to lose. Once you start getting all the colors in and take a bunch of time, then it's really hard to adjust all these little things. But with my sketch layer, if you're using pencil, just draw lightly at first, just to work some ideas out. There's that little circle where that tree is. Then there's the science building here, which is going to be a little diamond shape. Something like that. And then there's the Bidwell Mansion over on the left, which I drew last week in class, which was fun. So I'm just going to sketch that. Something like that. There's the Bidwell Mansion. And then other than that, there's not too much else going on. Maybe that lawn I could draw the shape of. I'm trying to draw these big shapes first, and then I'll fit all those trees and stuff into them. And then there's the high school campus, which is something like this shape. There's some buildings in there I'll worry about later. Yeah, that's looking pretty close. And if I'm looking at my at what you're seeing, where I can see the two pictures next to each other, it's actually a little bit easier to see my errors. So I see that this square of the concrete I went a little bit too low on, so I'm going to move that up a little bit and move the at the bottom like this. It might look like a crazy mess on here, and that's okay. Like I said, it's just a sketch for now. I'm kind of keeping it in my head. Alright, this is where the lawn will be. And then that little circle somewhere around here. The street, I'll make way with an eraser now. Alright. Some days are better than others as far as like getting the sketch correct the first time. Okay. But I think this is gonna do me just fine. I'm gonna move up that Bidwell mansion a little bit too. Something like that. Bidwell mansion, that's in the right spot. Chico High is generally in the right spot. The school, the science building, generally in the right spot now. Alright. So now that I have that, I'm going to switch to painting mode. Because I've got, where I want everything, roughly. So we probably won't end up seeing any of these lines in the end. So which color do I want to start with? Well, earlier I said start from the distance and move yourself closer, so I guess I'll do that. So if I look in the far distance, it kind of gets grayish white with maybe a hint of blue. So that's what the color I'm going to choose is grayish with a hint of blue. And I can exaggerate these colors. I actually want to make it a little bit more blue than the picture. And now I'm going to just color the top portion here where the sky is. Just give it that nice blue. Just below that, the trees in the distance are all sorts of different colors, but they still maintain pretty gray. So I'm going to move towards green and a darker color, but keep it sort of gray. I don't want too much color back there because the bright colors are going to be closer to the camera. And these grayish colors are further away. So I've got some greens, and I've got some more maybe brownish colors, some reds, all that. I'm just going to mix them in sort of randomly here until I hit this point where the esplanade starts. So as I go down, I'll keep getting a little bit darker, but try to keep it similarly gray because I don't want too much bright colors. Just getting a little bit darker, a little bit more saturated, but moving around from greens to browns to more reds, and moving left to right. Oops. Just because if I go up and down, I'll start to get lines going up and down. That'll kind of mess up our perspective here. So I want to keep maintaining this sort of left to right motion. And I can always go over this a little bit more later and make it more accurate. Like I noticed that I don't see many, there might be some more yellows in there that I need to add. Actually, I can go in with a little bit brighter yellow. Yeah, just to get that fall color thing. Maybe that'll be pretty good. All right. Now that I've hit the top of this road here, I'm going to start adding those colors in. So I'm going to start with this yellow since I have it. And I'm imagining just trees lining this road on both sides. And they seem to be variations of yellow, orange, and red. So again, I'm going to start a little bit grayed out, but keep moving from red to yellow to orange without moving how bright it is right now. But as I move down, I'll move a little bit more brighter, a little bit more saturated. And I'm also going to draw my the trees a little bit bigger. So just a little bit. And if I do it this way, if I did like, trees all the way down randomly with these colors, without slowly getting more bright, I would lose that effect of distance. So I want to make sure that I'm slowly adjusting these colors. If I was working with actual paint, I would probably slowly add in the colors as I go down into gray or whatever. If I was working on actual paint, I might start with the most colorful and then slowly get less colorful. Actually, that's what I'll try to do here. Is I'll look at that brightest red tree at the bottom of the esplanade there, and I'm going to try to match that color here. So it's like this very bright, beautiful color. There's a little bit of that going in. I see that same brightness down here, sort of. So may as well throw that in. All right. Maybe a darker version of that color to add some interest. Both sides of the road, towards the bottom of the trees. All right, there's a darker version of that color, maybe up towards the high school there. So there's going to be a lot of just scribbling around, scribbling color. Let's gray it out a little bit to get these more distant ones. So again, I'm still kind of trying to go left to right in the distance up here. Adding this a little bit grayed out red. Cool. Let's see. I need to finish my road here. Let's do a bright yellow. Some of these colors might be brighter than their real life counterparts, but that's okay. I want to make a nice bright picture. So where are the brightest yellows? There's some really bright yellow trees behind the Bidwell Mansion here. There's a little bit on the left. Above the science building there. Something like that. Now I'm gonna do a little bit of orange to finish the trees along the road here. Brownish orange too. And then look around, just randomly around the page to see if I can find anywhere else that there's this same brownish orange. I see it kind of at the bottom of the page here. There's a lot of this color actually, so I can sort of spread it around freely, maybe gray it out a little bit as I get into this distance. Again, I don't want too much color towards the top of my page. Even if it looks colorful in the picture, generally the further away you get, the less color you're gonna see mixed in. All right, so we're just throwing bits in there, left to right. Doop 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 doop. It's a lot of this color, so I'm kind of going wild with it here. Adding. A little bit in the parking lot. Cool. I want to switch gears to green now, because I haven't added any green yet, and except for a little bit in the distance. So I want to get the color of the grass. So green, you can either get a green that's more of a bluish green, or you can go towards yellow and get more of a yellow green. Grass tends to be more of a yellow green and not super bright, maybe a little darker, somewhere around here. So with that, I'm going to fill in this lawn area. I want to keep everything pretty quick, not only because I want to finish this today, but uh, I think doing nice and quick strokes will keep the whole painting nice and loose. So where else do I see that green? There's not really too much of that specific green, maybe a little bit, but I'm going to gray it out quite a bit and do some of these further greens along the right side. Again, I'm just sort of scribbling it around. To the left of the science building there's that big old green tree. The trees that are green at this point in the fall, some of them are evergreens, which is a type of tree that stays green all year round, like these cypresses along the road here. But some of them are just holding on to their last leaves, but will probably change soon after this picture was taken. So I'm mixing in some darker green to those greens that I just did. This is going to be a sort of an impressionist version of this image. So impressionism is where we kind of get the general impression of a scene, not necessarily all the details as they are in real life, but more of a general impression of it. So I'm just sort of choosing the colors as they appear to me and throwing them in there without being too, and that's totally okay to do in art. I've got this really bright orange, probably the brightest orange I'll use. Throwing a little bit of that in the bottom, up around. Just, if I just keep going like this, since I generally have a decent sketch that I started out with, if I just keep filling this in, it should end up nice, as long as I don't get too distracted with the details. That's okay. I'm going to do gray now to kind of fill in this parking lot. And I can notice some things about the gray is that there's a brightest area of it is sort of here in the middle of the picture. And I also noticed that there's a little slight maybe blue tint to the gray. So I want to make sure that my gray has that in it, a little bit of blue. And not an orange gray, which I started out with actually, accidentally. So that goes into here, and then across the road. There's going to be a tree there, but and then the esplanade is actually a darker color. So I'll darken my gray and then come down with it. Oops. Don't want to go through that tree I drew. There we go. And that cuts off all the way to the right. I'll add some nuance into the road in a minute. For now, I'm just filling in this gray fully. And then it peeks through in the distance, but you don't really see the road after that point. A little bit maybe here. If you've ever been driven on the Esplanade, which most of you in Chico have, there's those little side streets too, but we don't really see them in this image. It's okay. The sidewalk gets a little dark towards the science building, so I'll darken it up on the left. There's a little bit of a road under the um, under the grass here. So I'll draw a little bit of that. Then I'll add this gray into the bottom of the mansion as well. A little bit under the high school. And that's pretty much all the places I see this gray. I can add some into the distance as well. Cool. So I got that gray in. Again, we can add more details to that in a minute. But first, I want to basically get rid of all the white in my painting first. So I've started with all these little splotchy things, and that's cool. But now I'm going to look at those trees towards the very bottom and see a general color of those trees. Generally, it looks a little orange, orangish brown. So now I'm going to actually fill in all the rest of the white because I've gotten most of the main brightest trees down there. I'm going to just go ahead and fill in with this generalized color now. This is sort of a second way of doing it as opposed to how I started. So here we go. Just filling in down here, this area, the generalized color. Now as I move up, what am I missing here? I'm going to go back to this gray here. Fill in a little bit more of that gray. And then some of this orange here. And then throw some of this more orangey color in the bottom to fill up the white. Because I'll be going over this with the more specific colors. Now I'm going to look up towards the top in this area and see what's the general color. Instead of orange, this looks more like a greenish color, a dark green that's sort of grayed out. Maybe, I don't know, something like this. And your eye is a great judge of color, or you can build it to be. So go ahead and just, whatever your impression of it. Mine is this kind of darker green color, especially to the left. I might actually brighten it up on the right side of the road. But I'm going to fill up most of the area above the high school right now, because I really want to get rid of all the white. I'm, again, going to lighten that up slightly and maybe make it a little bit more yellow. And put that color on the right side. Sort of avoiding the strokes that I've already made, because I like the variation in color. Not really worried about filling up every little piece of white. It's okay if those little things pop through. Alright, and as I move down, it starts to get more and more yellow, so I'm going to go back to this sort of orangey color. Let's see, maybe like this color, and fill in this area here with this sort of doled out orange. Again, I'll add some more bright after I fill it in, but there's some buildings here that I'm gonna go right over, but I'll go back and make them in their bluish white in a minute. Okay, which areas am I forgetting? Oops. There's this area above the Bidwell Mansion, which kind of has some greenish, grayish colors in it. So I'll go ahead and just greenish gray, fill in that. There's some darker greens in this white area next to the Esplanade, so I'll go ahead and scribble those in. Starting to get a full picture here with this kind of unique style, scribbly unique style. I'm going to add some of this darker green into the bottom wherever I see it. There's this road down here. Okay, now I'm going to go with a darker brownish red for a path that I see down here and sort of the dirt. Um, Also for the, I guess it's a little bit more purple, is the roof of the Bidwell mansion. So I'm going to go ahead and keep it still very loose, not try to be exact with it, even on something that's precise like a building. Go back to that red here for the dirt in front of the Bidwell mansion. And then there's some actually at the bottom of the page too. Cool. So we're starting to get sort of an impression of the whole place, aren't we? Maybe a light gray for that distant school. And then for the buildings on the right, I'll add a little bit of gray as well. Road. Cool. All right, I pretty much have filled up all the white areas, which was what I kind of wanted to do. To start out here, there's some distant buildings I can add in with this gray, maybe even a whiter color. Maybe, I think this is like a fog layer in the very, very far distance. All right, cool. Now it's a game of just figuring out what I've just went over that I need to bring back. So looking at back and forth between my two pictures, I noticed that the bottom left is a little bit too bright. So what I'm going to do is find some darker colors. Some darker colors in there and throw them right on. So I see mostly orangish. There's that red at the very bottom though. Let's just get that out of the way. This reddish tree that's right in the bottom corner. A little bit here. Again, along the esplanade, I'll throw some back in there. Around the high school, there's that darker red. Get that in there. Yeah, maybe in the distance. Cool. I like the scribbliness of this picture. Very impressionist. I'm going to lighten up the sky in the background real quick because it's looking a little bit too dark blue and I want it to be a little grayer. Oops. So go ahead and just sprinkle some white right on top. Awesome. Okay, now the road, there's that white line that kind of comes through the middle, so I do want to capture that. There's also like the sidewalk lines that I can throw in real quick. And very gestural, very quickly drawn. Because everything else is, if you just keep going with the same technique throughout a whole painting or a whole drawing, it'll generally keep it looking more purposeful and connected than if you like do one little area that has a lot of detail or maybe. Okay, so I'm gonna do some black now. So there isn't too much black, but adding black into a painting will really pull everything that direction and make it more dynamic and good. So I'm gonna start at the bottom and I'm gonna scribble in all the areas I see on my reference that have black in them. So a lot of black like in and behind the trees here in the shadow areas. And we'll start to see the picture sort of gain some depth because of this black, I bet. Again, just being very loose, very scribbly everywhere in the whole painting will serve us well. All right, the black as we go up, maybe we could go a little bit lighter, a little bit more towards like dark gray, just again, because the further back, the more duller things tend to look. So that goes for the blacks too. All right, there's the windows on this mansion. I can kind of approximate where they are. This will help it look like a building. There you go. Okay, cool. Top right. I found with most things, if you just keep going with your plan, if you start with a plan and keep going, there's going to be a lot of points where it doesn't look like you think it's going to, but if you just stick with it, if your plan was strong, your end product will look good. It takes a lot of perseverance and belief in yourself and in the process. I'm adding some darks into the distant. I want to lighten them up a little bit. I want to get them a little bit more bluish and lighten them up. But I do want dark trees in the distance here. Again, still going left to right, even though I see them on the picture as little dots. Dot, 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 dot. I don't want to all of a sudden have dots when the rest of the painting was very liney. I want everything to look very cohesive. So that's what we'll do. I'm going to break up those buildings in the high school there. Yeah, just kind of keep them. And then on the right side of the road too, there's a bunch of buildings, which I can sort of add little scribbles. As I get more detail, I maybe use shorter lines, but try to keep the same quality of line. There's that gray little circle in the middle of the that road area there with a tree planted in it. So I want to try to capture that. The road does get darker as it goes down. Cool. All right. Now if I take a step back and look at my drawing versus the reference, I noticed that I need more oranges, especially in the distance. There's definitely more oranges going on. So I'm going to grab a nice orange and sort of just add oranges into the green that I filled up at the top. And sort of randomly. This might be a little too saturated, so bring it back towards gray a little bit. Something like that. Yeah, and this will add those fall colors, because fall colors we think of as yellows, reds, oranges, brown. Those are the fall colors. So those dark greens that I have back there are in there. They're interspersed with the fall colors, but they're not the main color. All right. And I could also add a little bit of this more orangey color to the bottom, even going over some of the blacks that I added in. Because again, we don't really want too much white. There's some of it between the high school. So I'm really kind of blurring my eyes when I look at the reference and when I look at the main one, or to look at what I'm working on, and seeing, okay, what am I missing? So I'm gonna go again. If I'm looking at the bottom left, there's more of a dark brown presence in there. So I'm gonna try to darken up everything that's going on in this area a little bit. Darken, darken, darken. Yep. Just going, going, going. All right. And that's starting to get more close to the color. Where else do I see this darker brown? Maybe towards the left, going upwards. Um, Under the trees over here. Top right, there's maybe some more browns. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. I'm gonna get a dark green now. I'm sort of just jumping around the color wheel, which is totally cool. I think it's nice to do one color for a bit and then move along to something else and then kind of jump around instead of just doing all your oranges and all your reds, all your yellows. Because if you jump around your picture and jump around your color wheel, it tends to pull everything together in a nice way, rather than just overworking one area or one color at a time. That's a nice general sketchy sketch here. What can I do next? I want to keep my pencil moving. I don't want to really stop. Because that's the nature of this picture. It has a very moving quality to it. All right. So looking at from the small view, looking at my picture versus the reference, I still need some darker darks at the bottom here. So I'm gonna have this dark brown color eke into my trees a little bit. Let's see. Cool. All right. I noticed my picture, especially in the bottom, is starting to get a little bit dulled out. So let's see. I should bring back some of those bright colors. Maybe even some really bright colors. So I'm gonna do a really bright orange and throw that color on top of all the brighter orange things I see. So this orange that I chose here is almost a yellow, and I'm throwing it in. I see a lot of it in the top right, and along the esplanade a little bit. And then kind of sprinkled in there between the high school and the esplanade. Little bits in the distance even. Cool. Let's see. I'll look at it a little bit closer. I still think maybe I could go a little darker in the distance, and that would sort of pull us back. So I'm gonna go with a dark color now. Again, kind of pulling myself back and forth. I'm gonna go with a dark bluish color. Blue, you might say, like, oh, there's no water, but I think that the colors tend to blue themselves out, or that's why what's that song? Purple Mountain's Majesty, that line. Because in the distance, things tend to get blued out or more purple. So the browns of mountains will mix with the blue from the distance and turn purple. I think that's an interesting way to look at it, at least. So you'll see this blue doesn't look super out of place back there. Then again, it's a very grayed out blue, but I'm gonna add this same blue into the road towards the bottom. Because that's another thing. If you use a color one place, it's nice to throw it in somewhere else in your picture too. Just, you know, ties it all together a little bit more. I'm starting to like how this is all going. I noticed some trees in my parking lot there that don't exist yet. So I'm gonna try to throw those in. Here's this sort of lime green I haven't added yet that I'm gonna throw in where I see it. There's not too much of it, maybe at the tips of some of the trees. So at the tips of some of the green trees, I'll throw a little bit of this lime green. This is not a very fall color, so I don't want too much of it. That does seem to be in there some places. Maybe a more of a yellowish gray-green in the grass there, just to add some variation into that green grass. And add a little bit of that into the tips of things. All right. I'm going to do a nice saturated orange now for these orange trees along the bottom. Nice saturated. Saturated means that would be like more color. So you can do brighter or darker, which is like adding white or adding black essentially. Or you could do more saturated, which is adding color, adding more orange to the orange instead of more gray. Yeah. So if I squint my eyes, I'm starting to see the picture here. And I'll see and I can continue to see the differences between what I'm drawing and my picture. These buildings are a little bit too bright, so I added some gray into them. Oh, there's that really bright, and I don't know how I just noticed that, but that really bright tree at the very bottom center, I'm going to add in that white, even like maybe a little bit of pink in it, pinkish orange. Yeah, there we go. Can't forget that nice tree. So that's a good thing to do, is just kind of look around, look for trees maybe that I didn't put in. Now that I've covered all the white, I can be a little bit more specific. There's these bright yellow ones at the bottom that I don't really have represented. So I'm going to go ahead and just scribble them right on top. And get them in there. Where else can I see that same color around the whole picture? That's sort of the rhythm to it. You do a specific tree that you're looking at, and then look around with that same color, see where you can also add that same color. And this would work with pencil, with colored pencil rather, with paint. It really doesn't matter what medium you're using. This technique serves me well usually. Some paintings turn out better than others just because of luck of my strokes, or just a general better game plan, but they all end up turning out somewhat what I set out to do if I just keep at it. There's this nice bright tree right here. This kind of odd teal color shows up just a few places, I see. Maybe a darker version of this in the distance, though. All right, starting to get there. There's this odd bit of gray right here I want to kind of take care of. It looks like I accidentally have that tree a little bit too low. So I'm going to go ahead and get some gray, get the bottom of that tree out, but then add some more of this orange up above, because I want to get rid of that white area. The street sort of turns here, so there's a little bit of an indent. There we go. All right. Cool. All right, looking pretty good. I'm going to go in with the dark color again, nice dark blackish color, and re-establish some of that stuff that I did before. Sort of now I'm kind of outlining some of these trees. Now that I have a bunch of colors in there, I can sort of use the black to define the edges of some of these trees also with really scribbly strokes. And as I do that, I can kind of spot, oh, there's a tree that I didn't do, or there's a color that I didn't add in. that kind of thing. So I'm gonna go back to my black, maybe not all the way black, and yeah, again, just my eyes are darting up towards my picture, down towards the reference, back and forth, because I always want to I want to be using my reference, not necessarily using my imagination at this point. Using my imagination to tell me, you know, where, how to do my colors, but not to where to put them. I want to always only pretty much paint what I'm drawing, even if it doesn't look exactly the same. Or paint what I'm seeing, rather. A lot of times if your painting looks too mushy, like it looks too undefined, too mushy, adding black will help that. Though it's very powerful. Black is probably I've heard it called the queen of all colors. It's a very powerful color, and it can fix a picture sometimes, but it also can be overdone. So you want to be careful with the amount of black that you're using. But it definitely can be a good tool for you. I'm gonna add some more red into the bottom. Sort of brighten up some of these red trees that I see along the esplanade too. Because that's kind of that's where I started, and that's one of the main focal points of the picture, is those reds along the esplanade there. Alright. There's a little bit of a tree in the parking lot there that's red. I'm going to do a darker green now. You can see how I don't really stop moving. Except for to look at the picture. But I'm always just choosing whatever colors interests me next, or whatever I see. Like, okay, go on with that, and without thinking, like, should I do the green next? Should I do the orange yet? No, I just kind of look real quick. I see something green, pick green, paint with it. It might be harder if you're having to mix your colors, like physically, but at least in this digital painting format, it makes it really easy to do that. Let's see. Looking at the two pictures side by side, it's looking pretty good, huh? The bottom left, I'm sort of happy with. Maybe I could add a little bit more darker oranges in some of these brighter trees. So like down here, just scribble them around so that there's not any like uniform washes of color. They're all sort of mixed up with different colors, because that's how fall trees are, right? They're not necessarily like not all the leaves are one color usually. Some of these yellow trees look sort of like that, but generally there are all sorts of different colors in the same tree. Different leaves change at different times. Adding some deeper red in there. Yeah. Red in those esplanade trees now a little bit. And as they actually like get really light, I'm noticing right here. So I'm gonna do some nice light pinks and stuff right there. I didn't really notice that till just now, but yeah, there's this area of kind of lighter oranges and pinks along the road there. I don't know if that's just the angle of the camera, or if the sun is hitting there or something. But yeah, there's these lighter colors right around there. They sort of eke into the right as well. Get these bright yellows Cool. I think I've well maintained that scribbliness to this painting. So I'm happy with that as I look at it now. I'm adding some pinks in there. I see some like hot pinks in the trees. I think that would be nice. Yeah. But generally, I'm liking the scribbliness of the whole thing. And I don't know how much more to do I have. I guess I could reestablish some of those buildings in the distance. There's this mansion that's over off of the Esplanade, a couple houses way out in the distance that I'm just drawing with quick strokes of white. There's these closer buildings. A little bit of a sidewalk behind the trees here. The sidewalk that goes down here. The tops of the high school buildings are brighter on top, so I'll kind of add a little extra white there on top. All right. There we go. And I think I'm going to call it at that. Now the last step I like to do is kind of clean up the edges. So I'm going to take a nice hard brush and just erase actually I can do it like this. Sometimes I'll erase the edges, sometimes I'll paint black over the edges, which is what I'm going to do here. So I'll just make a nice hard black line around all four edges, and that'll just kind of formalize the picture so it doesn't look so messy. I do this on my oil paintings too. So I'll be a little bit more careful usually, but that way if there's any kind of rogue strokes off the edges, this will take care of them. Also, it gives it a nice border, even without your frame. Let me make a bigger brush here, and I'll just quickly fill in black here. Oops, don't want to cover up my painting. Oh. There we go. All right, so a little window into Chico in the fall here. Let's see, you seeing that? Cool. I hope you enjoyed that. That was sure a different kind of painting. I don't think I've ever really painted something like that, or ever drawn in that style and this many colors all together. I would love to do an actual acrylic or oil painting of this scene, and it's great to have tried it out digitally first so I could try it out with you guys live here, just to work out some mistakes. What would I do different next time, and what did I like about this? I think it worked out fairly well altogether. There's not too much that makes me totally cringe, or that I don't like. There's little structural errors that maybe I would take care of next time. But yeah, not too bad. And I hope you learned something from watching me, or at least enjoyed the process. So take care, and I'll see you next time.